you guys, welcome back to my channel. As you guys saw from the title of today's video, I will be sharing all the books that I read this month, as well as sharing the books that I want to read in February. I didn't read a ton of books in January, but I read some really good ones that I'm really excited to share. January was definitely quality over quantity, and I love it when my reading months are like that because there's nothing worse than reading a ton of books and hating them all. So I'm really happy with how my reading month went. Let's start with the book that makes me smile every time I think about it, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I finally read the Empyrean series. I actually read Iron Flame this month as well, but let's just start with Fourth Wing first because Fourth Wing was perfection. I don't know what Rebecca Yarros put in Fourth Wing, but I literally read this within the span of 24 hours. I was hooked, obsessed, addicted. I don't even know how I read Fourth Wing so quickly, but I did, and I did not want to put it down. I was so sad when it ended. But before I get too ahead of myself, if you're unfamiliar somehow, if you've been living under a rock, if you're unfamiliar with the Empyrean series, it basically follows a main character named Violet who is kind of forced to join a dragon rider academy. All her life she's trained for something else. She's trained to become a scribe, but at the last minute her mom forces her to become a dragon rider. But in order to become a dragon rider, she has to go through this dragon rider school. Not everyone who enrolls in this academy survives. A lot of them actually end up dying. That's how they weed out the weak from the strong, and everyone thinks that Violet is weak. Her bones are constantly breaking. A lot of her school colleagues make it their mission to end her, especially since she is the general's daughter. And throughout the book you see her coming into her own power, into her own strength, and learning how to defend herself. I really loved her character in Fourth Wing. And then we have the male main character Xaden, who's absolutely amazing. Love him. He is honestly my favorite book boyfriend of all time. Garrett Graham from The Deal has held that spot for almost 2 years, but now Xaden has taken over. I'm all about Xaden now. It is a adult fantasy romance, enemies to lovers. Like I said, I absolutely loved Fourth Wing. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I literally have no complaints about it. It had me at the edge of my seat from the very first chapter till the last chapter. The ending took me by complete surprise. I did not see that ending coming at all. I was shook. Still kind of am. After I finished this book, I immediately ordered Iron Flame, and thank God for Amazon same-day delivery because I started reading this book immediately. I do have a reading vlog coming out very soon where I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, so you guys will get my honest thoughts in that video. But just know that I absolutely loved Fourth Wing. I gave it 5 stars. Absolutely perfection. Xaden has my heart. I keep saying that because I love that man so much, and I just love the romance. I love the action. I love the adventure. I loved Violet in this. She definitely was a character that had so many different layers to her, and everyone underestimated her, and she used that to prove them wrong and to survive. Perfectly written book. On the other hand, we have to talk about Iron Flame, and I know that this book has gotten shitted a lot here on BookTube, and I'm not going to be that person who shits on this book because I did enjoy it, but it wasn't at the same level that I enjoyed Fourth Wing. And maybe I'm a little biased because I didn't have to wait months to read this. I started reading it immediately after I finished Fourth Wing. Maybe that's why my opinion is going to be a little bit different than other people here on BookTube. I enjoyed it for what it was. It definitely was a lot more slow paced than Fourth Wing, which is one of the reasons why I didn't love it as much. I was expecting a lot more adventure, a lot more action, and there's just a lot of unnecessary dialogue in this book. It's over 600 pages, longer than Fourth Wing, and I don't really understand why Rebecca's editor or whoever's in charge of finally approving this book didn't tell her to cut it down 100 pages or so, because there were a lot of scenes that felt unnecessary. I also felt like Violet's and Xaden's character got worse. Fourth Wing felt like I was reading a adult fantasy book. Iron Flame felt like I was reading a YA fantasy. I don't know what it was, but the characters felt so childish in this book despite having big ass problems that they had to face. And Violet's character really irked me in this book. She kept hounding Xaden about being truthful and telling her absolutely everything, and Xaden kept telling her if she has a question she can ask him, and if he can answer he would, and if he couldn't answer he would let her know that he couldn't answer. And I don't understand why she wasn't understanding that and why she made it such a big deal, especially when she turned around and did the same thing to her friends. Xaden had good reasons for not being able to be 100% honest honest and for telling her that he had to keep some secrets to himself. You learn those secrets towards the very end of the book, which I'm still team Zayn. I'm like, why are you forcing this man to tell you absolutely everything when he's telling you it's not in your best interest to know? And then she wasn't asking him questions that she wanted answers to. She was avoiding them. Don't even get me started on the fact that he was gone for, I want to say like 90% of this book. He was always away on a mission, and I don't know if that's going to get explained in the third book, but he was very rarely in Iron Flame, which pissed me off because I loved his character. And then, like I said, Violet became very, very whiny, but when they were together and they were lovey-dovey, I did enjoy those scenes. Also, the ending of this book, why, Rebecca? Why would you do that? How do you come back from that? Honestly, that's all I'm going to say about the ending because I don't want to spoil it, but I was not a huge fan of the ending. I'm going to continue the series because I need to find out what's going to happen next, but I know that Rebecca Yarros said there was going to be a big chunk of time before the third book comes out, which to thank God for that because I feel like Iron Flame definitely was rushed. She didn't really have time to write this maybe how she wanted to write it, and maybe she felt a lot of pressure because of the success of Fourth Wing. I don't know, but I'm glad that she's taking her time with the third book, and maybe we'll go back to the basics with the third book and go back to how Fourth Wing felt. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Hopefully the third book is a lot better than Iron Flame. Like I said, it wasn't a terrible book. It just definitely was a lot slower, and it took me almost a week to get through this book versus I read Fourth Wing again within the span of 24 hours. I ended up giving 3 stars to Iron Flame. The dragons though in these 2 books are amazing. I love the dragons. And then I read Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton, I believe. If you're unfamiliar with Hunting Adeline, it's part of the cat and mouse duology. It follows a main character who ends up falling in love with her stalker. Well, that's the premise of the first book. The second book involves that main character being taken and put into human trafficking. This series is dark romance. It is very, very dark. I would definitely suggest to look up the trigger warnings before even attempting to start these books. The second book was definitely a lot darker than the first one, but I kind of was prepared for that because I had read a ton of reviews prior to starting it. Mentally, I was prepared for it to be very dark. I did enjoy it a lot more than I enjoyed the first book. The male main character Z was a tad less crazy, and I really like that the author didn't shy away from showing how cruel and horrible human trafficking is, and she didn't sugarcoat anything. She put the main character through absolute hell. With that being said, I still didn't really feel a connection to any of the characters. I didn't really care for any of them, and then the book kind of ended abruptly, so I don't know if she's going to continue the series, maybe revolving around different characters, but I just felt the book to be meh, and I was happy once I was finished reading it because that meant that I never had to visit that world again, and I could finally say that I read Hunting Adeline books. I really don't understand the hype behind these 2 books. Maybe because they're so dark, they are catching people off guard and surprising people with how dark the writing is, but I feel like they're kind of just meh. Not my cup of tea. Normally I do like dark romances, but these 2 books just felt meh. I did finish the Brier U series this month, which I'm super happy and proud of myself. I read The Dare and The Play. Well, The Play is book 3, The Dare is book 4. If you're unfamiliar with the Brier U series, it's basically a spin-off to the Off-Campus series by L. Kennedy. These books are hockey romances, so if that's your thing, I definitely would recommend these 2 books or these 2 series, both the Off-Campus and the Brier U series. I will say that I really enjoyed The Play. I ended up giving this book a 4.5. I love the 2 main characters. Their banter was absolutely delightful. Book 3 felt like Elle Kennedy had found her spark again, and I absolutely loved her writing. It reminded me why I fell in love with The Deal. The only reason I didn't give it a 5-star rating was because I felt that the 2 main characters didn't really have anything to lose, and they didn't really go through a lot of problems or hardships throughout the relationship, but I loved them so much, and I loved their banter, and I loved their personalities, that I decided to give it a 4.5. The final book in the series, The Dare, I think I ended up giving a 2.5. I actually skimmed a lot of this book. I read the first half half, and I was so incredibly bored with the two main characters. I didn't really enjoy the writing. There was a miscommunication trope that was used multiple times throughout this book, and I'm not a fan of the miscommunication trope. Nothing irks me more than someone who doesn't know how to communicate in real life and in books. So for that reason, I didn't really enjoy the writing in this one. I'm talking a lot with my hands today. I'm so sorry. Overall, I would recommend the Brier U series because I think if you are into hockey college romances, then you'll really enjoy these books, especially the first one and the third one. I read a lot of Elle Kennedy this month. I read 3 of her books, and the third book that I read from her was The Graham Effect, which is actually a new release. I think it came out last fall. It's also a spin-off to the Off-Campus series, and it follows Garrett and Hannah's daughter Gigi. If you're unfamiliar with the Off-Campus series, Hannah and Garrett are from The Deal, which is the first book, and The Deal is absolutely perfection. I love that book so much. So when I saw that Elle Kennedy decided to revisit the Off-Campus world and do a little spin-off, I decided to check it out, and this book did not disappoint. Like I said, it follows Hannah and Garrett's daughter Gigi. She's actually a female hockey player. It's very interesting because up to this point, every female in the Off-Campus and Brier series have never been athletes that I remember. So it's really special that Gigi actually is taken after her father and is a female hockey player. The writing in this book reminded me so much of The Deal. It reminded me why I fell in love with Elle's writing in the first place, and I love Gigi's personality. I love the main character writer. There were so many different layers to him, and I absolutely loved his and Gigi's chemistry. Overall, if you're looking for a fun romance read, also if you were a fan of The Deal, definitely check out The Graham Effect. I ended up giving this book a 4.5. It would have been a 5-star rating, but I just didn't really like how Elle Kennedy jumped between chapters. Sometimes when I would jump from one chapter to the next, it felt like I lost some time or I skipped a couple chapters in between those 2 chapters. I felt like certain parts of the book just didn't flow. Overall, I really enjoyed this book and I would recommend it. And then I ended up DNFing Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Six of Crows duology. This book is very slow. I think I made it halfway. I made it to part 4. I just couldn't continue reading it. I do want to finish it at some point. Maybe I'll finish it in February. I wanted to finish it this month, but I just don't have it in me. Again, it's so painfully slow that I haven't been able to get into it. Hopefully, I'll be able to finish it in February because I want to scratch this series off my list and be done with it. I'm halfway done, so I just need to suck it up and read the rest, but I also think I need to be in the right mindset for this book. Those are all the books that I read in January. I have 6 books that I picked out for my February TBR that I really want to focus on getting to. The first one being What Happens After Midnight by K.L. Walker. I read The Summer of Broken Rules by her last year. Absolutely loved it. This one goes, Lily Hopper has 2 more weeks until she's officially finished with boarding school. With graduation quickly approaching, Lily is worried that she somehow missed out on the fun of being in high school. So when she receives a mysterious note inviting her to join the anonymous senior class jester in executing the end of year prank, Lily sees her chance to put her goody two-shoes reputation behind her. When Lily realizes the jester is none other than Tagwart Swell, her ex-boyfriend, she's already in too deep to back out and it's going to be a problem. Lily might have dumped Tag, but she still has major feelings, plus his brilliant plan to steal the school's yearbooks targets none other than Lily's prom date. As the exes dodge campus safety grounds, night out teachers, a troop of freshmen, new sparks fly between them. But old hurts and painful secrets refuse to be ignored, and with graduation on the horizon, sometimes it takes letting go to realize that some bonds can't be broken. This sounds like it's second chance romance, which is not my favorite trope, but since I enjoyed The Summer of Broken Rules by her so much, I decided to give this a chance and I really like the cover, so I'm excited to read this in February. And then the next book that I picked out was The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. A couple of you guys actually told me that you read this book and it made you cry, so I'm excited, but I'm also nervous to start this book. I feel like it's going to break my heart into a million pieces. It is a historical fiction book. It takes place in Alaska in 1974 and it follows a family. The family are basically in crisis. They decide to move to Alaska to start fresh, but their father has a temper. The mom is willing to do anything to appease her husband, and the 13-year-old daughter feels like she's caught in between her two parents, and now they're living basically in the middle of nowhere, bracing for a harsh winter. This sweeping, unforgettable portrait of human fragility and resilience spans the decades in a place of incomparable beauty and danger, where a family learns the truth about the wildness that lives in both man and nature. I feel like this book is going to break my heart. And then I do have a beach read because I want to start getting in the mood for summer, and this is The Summer Place. The Summer Place is a testament to family in all its messy glory, a story about what we sacrifice and how we forgive. Enthralling, witty, big-hearted, and sharply observed, this is Jennifer's love letter to the outer Cape and the power of home, the way our lives are enriched by the people we call family, and the endless ways love can surprise us. A heartfelt and unputdownable novel of family secrets and the ties that bind. This one is another family related book. I don't know why I'm reading two books that are centered around families, but I've also heard really good things about The Summer Place, so I can't wait to start that. And then I have a couple more books that I want to read on Kindle Unlimited. I want to read Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is a YA, I think it's young adult fantasy, and this is another fantasy novel that is very popular on Book Talk, and I've heard so many great things about it. And since I'm still obsessed with Fourth Wing, I want to continue to read a little bit more fantasy. After centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again, but 18-year-old Iris just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. Honestly, I'm very intrigued by that synopsis, and I've heard so many great things about Divine Rivals. I haven't heard any negative reviews on it, so I have really high expectations. And then I want to read The Prisoner by B.A. Paris. I read Behind Closed Doors last year by this author and absolutely loved that book. It was such a good psychological thriller that had me at the edge of my seat, and I did not see the ending coming. I came across Behind Closed Doors on Kindle Unlimited and decided to give it a chance. It seems like it's another psychological thriller. Emily has always been a survivor, from losing her parents as a child in Paris to making it on her own in London. As she builds a life for herself, she is swept up into a glamorous lifestyle where she married the handsome billionaire Ned Hawthorne. But then Emily, I don't know, wakes up in a pitch black room not knowing where she is. Why has she been taken? Who are her mysterious captors? And why does she soon feel safer here in prison than she had begun to feel with her husband Ned? Another very suspenseful novel by this author, and I'm very excited. If you haven't read Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris, do me a favor and go read it. Such a good thriller. And then the final book, or books I should say, that I want to read in February is the Mindfuck series. Yeah, I said that correctly, by S.T. Abbey. I think this book came out a few years ago and it was making its rounds over on TikTok a few years ago, but I saw that it was recently uploaded to Kindle Unlimited, so I decided to give it a chance. I actually started book 1, The Risk, this morning, which follows a serial killer, a woman serial killer who is thirsty for revenge and is killing a group of men that did something to her. I still don't really know what they did to her, but I know that she's out for revenge and she's killing them one by one. And she meets this FBI profiler and they immediately have a connection and they start dating. So obviously there's a conflict of interest there because she's killing men and he's actually investigating her crimes. I haven't finished the book yet, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'm very intrigued by this series and I want to finish it in February, so we'll see. Those are all the books that I want to read in February. Let me know in the comments below what books you read in January. What are you planning to read in February? I would love to know. And that is pretty much it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you on my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.